Welcome, everybody, at another episode of the Wrestling vs. the World podcast. If you're enjoying your day, sweet. If not, then what the hell ever. But I've had this idea, a bit of an obscure episode subject, and that is WWF/WWE shows that at one point or another during the runs ended up changing their format. So originally has one purpose, and then while the show existed at some point or another, it changes. So there are some examples that I got in here where I'm going to talk about like what they were and like a rough estimate of when they changed. Some of them it's hard to pinpoint, but that's what's going to be going for today's episode. So we're going to start off the earliest example, Primetime Wrestling. Went from January 1st, 1985 until January 4th, 1993, where it was later completely replaced by Monday Night Raw. Originally the format, it was a highlight show for the first couple years. Like, I had mostly remembered with Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon. You may have seen those clips, of course, throughout social media. Then from February of 1991 until November of later that year, ended up being a more talk variety show type of style. Had an audience there with Vince and Bobby Heenan, so became less of a highlight show, more just everybody getting around talking. And then they really ramped it up afterwards. From November 11, 1991 until the end of the series in January of 1993, it became a group panel discussion talking about things that were going on within the company. And one of the most famous clips, of course, that happened because of the show was when Mr. Perfect turned babyface by accepting Macho Man Randy Savage's deal in order to team at Survivor Series 1992 to go against Ric Flair and Razor Ramon, and departing ways from Bobby Heenan. So, a bit of like an odd few format changes, but you know it works. Like, have figures talking and try to get interest in the show and everything like that. Second one here that we got. Oh, this one really jumped around. Superstars of Wrestling, debuting from September 6th of 1986 until August of 2001, with an asterisk there. So they had a similar format / name before, from 1984 until 1986, before it got rebranded as WWF Wrestling Spotlight. But then afterwards, this became the main show, which would later then also kind of become more of the format for Raw. But it had matches and angles, so the typical stuff. By April 1992, the show had to be have its name shortened to just Superstars, because promoter Albert Patterson actually successfully sued the company because he had the rights to the show name of Superstars of Wrestling. So Superstars became the name going forward. Now, they would continue this whole format of matches, angles, and everything, but then by March 1997, it became a basic weekly summary show. Talk about stuff from like Raw, Superstars, it would include SmackDown, and interestingly enough, it would include behind-the-scenes content, where if wrestlers were going off doing appearances with TV shows or commercials, movies, and stuff like that, so you get to see a bit of an insight into the business. And then the show would end here in the United States right before SummerSlam 2001. However, in the UK, it would actually continue up until December of 2002. So if you go on YouTube, there are some videos actually out there of showing that WWE Superstars did continue in 2002, but the main format officially closed here in the United States in August 2001. Now, one that people finally remember, but I think it's a little obscure for that reason. Shotgun Saturday Night, January 4, 1997 until August 21st, 1999. People very fondly remember the show because it had that more risque format, had those shows that happen on location, like inside of bars and Times Square, like in other public venues like this outside of arenas. But the thing that people forgot about is this only lasted for a couple of months, because then by March of 1997 it went to that typical B show format of just matches for people that aren't really featured on the main shows and everything like that. And this would be the format that would go until the show was canned in August 21st, 1999, and then replaced by WWF Jacked / Metal. Now, there were a few different versions of Shotgun Saturday Night. The version called Shotgun Challenge, which aired at an earlier airtime, had a bit more of a family-friendly equivalent feel to it. There was also a different version known as 11 Alive, which only had about a 2-month run prior to WrestleMania 14, which also had different commentary. And to my knowledge, when it comes to that version of the show, there's one episode that's readily available online, and there were some that should have been available elsewhere, but the rest of the episodes are lost media. And I have tried to obtain about 2 or 3 of those missing ones, but unfortunately it's been unsuccessful. Now, another one that we're going to bring up here, WWF Heat. So I'm bringing this up for a bit of a reason. From August 2nd, 1998 up until its permanent closure at May 30th of 2008, and the format change is not the fact that the show went from airing on television to being WWE.com exclusive or still on television overseas, but the show was essentially hoped to continue storylines and feuds and stuff for like that happened on Raw, and also help hype up pay-per-views that aired after the show concluded. But then once the brand split took place, it became more of a show where it featured more unused talent from Raw, and also still continued the pre-pay-per-view hype after the brand split took place up until the show permanently concluded. So it changed the format of actually having purpose to being like, hey, we got airtime to fill, so we're going to have unused guys be featured on these shows. And they would have some storylines here and there with feuds, like with Raven and all them, but not a whole lot to remember. Another one to bring up here back from the 90s, WWF Action Zone lasted from October 23rd, 1994 up until September 15 of 1996. Now, this show did have a bit of promise. There were some prominent matches and everything to start because it had new matches, got everybody hyped up and everything. You had like a tag match with the Click. You had the Intercontinental Championship controversy with Jeff Jarrett and Sparkplug Bob Holly. But then by late 1995, the format completely did a 180 where it became an in-studio highlight show going over recaps from Raw and Superstars with hosts Todd Pettengill and Doc Hendricks, aka Michael P.S. Hayes, up until the show concluded in September of 1996. Now we got two more to bring up here. Livewire. This one definitely also changed again. This show debuted in September of September 21st, 1996, so it succeeded Action Zone up until August 18, 2001. With the original format being this show would be airing and taped. I think it was like possibly a live show that happened there in studio. You took calls and everything. You had Sonny, you had Jim Cornette around there, Doc Hendricks, Jim Cornette, Vince McMahon, Jim Ross, stuff like that. But then at some point, it's not fully 100% clarified here because a lot of episodes are lost media right now. But eventually became that weekly summer show that also took place in studio. You had names there like Chris Leary, Jonathan Coachman, and of course Michael Cole. So became more that weekly show summary type of format up until its closure in August of 2001. Now the last example I got here, because this actually succeeded this afterwards, and this show, finally, if you've been on this channel, you may know this finally got fully preserved, WWF Excess, from August 25th, 2001, up until its permanent closure in May 18th, 2002. So this show would last a couple of hours, had the call-in show format, had exclusive interviews. In fact, the debut episode actually had Triple H's first on-screen appearance since his quad tear from 3 months prior, giving fans updates. But then, within the last month of the show, seeing how the show was being received, it did a little bit of a format change where the first hour of the show would be recapping SmackDown with different hosts, and then Raw for the second hour of the show from April of 2002 up until the end of the series. So yeah, we had a good amount of shows here that had a bit of a lengthy run with like all these shows at one point. Some of them, when they changed their format, it became a standard cookie cutter thing that we saw with shows. Either a summary show or it's just a standard B show. It's just like, hey, here are just some matches just because. But some of these shows did do good, pretty well. Like Livewire, I know there's still a bunch of missing episodes out there, like I mentioned, and it would help with the match graphics type of content that I've been looking for to try to get some of these shows to finally be fully found for like the collection and everything. But some of these did make good changes for the better, but some not so much, depending on how much you were paying attention to these shows. But let me know in the comment section below, out of all of these shows that you saw, which one had at least your favorite format change? Like where you didn't care for like one format of it, but then when it changed to a different one, you liked it a bit more. Like, for me, I like Superstars more. I like seeing that behind-the-scenes stuff with footage like Kane doing the Chef Boyardee commercial. I think Chris Jericho did one as well. You had magazine photo shoot with the New Age Outlaws, stuff like that. I like seeing that inside stuff. So I think Superstars had the better change, even after the name changed too. But let me know what you all thought in the comment section below. If you enjoyed today's episode of the podcast, folks, please remember, leave a like, subscribe to the bell, turn on here on YouTube. Comment what you thought below, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for listening, folks. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace out and good day, everybody.